OK, Rupa, what's your view on all of this? Because Keir Starmer was pushing for a vote of no confidence, which would then trigger a general election. Should that still happen, do you think?
I mean, I think there's really strong arguments for a general election now. I mean, you're right, it's totally unprecedented. 59 ministers in a mass walkout, drip, drip, drip. It did change our rhythm of looking at, who's resigning next. Now it's turned into who's running next kind of thing by the minute, new people coming forward. And I think if we're getting another unelected Prime Minister foisted on us, there's strong democratic arguments that we should all have a say in this. And, the Tory party is pretty vicious. I've only been an MP in my short lifetime. I think this is the third one that they've knifed in 6 years. So he did hang on too long, didn't he? People said he'd have to be dragged out kicking and screaming. That's what happened. Even his resignation speech was very defiant. And he shouldn't be there a day longer, I think. He's presided over such a degradation of public standards. He needs to be gone now.
Yeah, and perhaps not surprisingly, Labour calling for a general election, given by the latest reckoning you're about 11 points ahead in the polls. But how long can you cling on to that lead for, do you think? Is that all just fuelled by the drama in Westminster?
Look, it's irrespective of polls. I just think that there's democratic arguments that, we're getting a Prime Minister that nobody voted for. Sorry, probably, is it 100,000 members now? So blokes from the golf club or whoever are going to choose our next Prime Minister of 60 million people.
Rupa, Sir Keir Starmer, not fined by Durham police, lives to fight another day. Might he regret not having a lame duck Prime Minister, though, to fight against?
Look, I just think, I'm glad we've got beyond that nonsense of the Beergate, because there was never a case to answer there. And, maybe the Tory MP who was cooking that up should be done for wasting police time. I just think if you're saying we need a clean start, that means refresh the lot of them. The country is crying out for change. And there's serious implications for London. I think we're only days away from that next TfL temporary settlement running out. The amount of times that we're marched to the top of the hill, we're on these MP briefings and they say 99% of bus routes will go. We need...
Say 99% of bus routes will go. That's a huge exaggeration.
OK, all right. But you know what I mean?
5% of bus routes are going to go.
But the point is we need the long-term sustainable plan for London. And we're not getting that at the moment. And, you say there's a functioning government. They've shuffled the pack, put a few people in, the new education minister who gave the one finger to the crowds yesterday, not a good example. I think we need to do this properly with the general election now.
All right, well, we will see in the coming days. So Mark Rowley, the new Met Commissioner, is he the right appointment, Rupa?
I mean, he's got a good CV, certainly impressive experience with counter-terrorism, yet the advantage of not having been in the Met the last 4 years under all these scandals, because the Metropolitan Police did become synonymous with so many of these scandals. Every time I came on this programme, there were a few more to add to the list. And it's good that Priti Patel and Sadiq Khan have agreed on this one, because, again, they seem to be at each other's throats. So I think give the bloke a chance. Hopefully a fresh start. OK,
Rupa, we're going to talk about women's safety in a couple of minutes, but what does Sir Mark need to do to prioritise tackling that crisis in the Met?
I mean, he needs to take it seriously, because often we have the Sarah Everard case shocked the nation, and for about 5 minutes people were saying something must be done. And then since then we've had Sabina Nessa, Zara Alina. Yeah. So the roll call goes on.
We'll talk a bit more about that in a moment. The former Home Secretary, Diane Abbott, has said that he was a disappointing choice. He said that they brought him back from retirement. There's no evidence that he's a reformer. Do you agree with any of that?
I mean, I'm keen to give him a chance at this stage. And the fact that in his interview he does recognise that there's serious trust and confidence issues, it sounds like he gets it. And I suppose it could be an advantage that he knows the operational framework, but he's not been in that tainted regime of the last 4 years. Yeah, no woman should be afraid to walk the streets, public space. Right. Yeah, but you and I, all three of us around this table, find a shiver goes down our spine when we're in certain places. So, I mean, we've seen the reforming statements of this new commissioner. He needs to sit down with Reclaim These Streets very early on and have a meeting and listen to women. Because, again, part of the reason why the Met Police is in special measures is that there were tens of thousands of cases, low level, that were completely ignored. And that's really serious. So, I mean, there's an amendment I was proposing to the protest bill going through at the moment, that women at the moment feel scared to access abortion clinics. That is a completely legal procedure, has been for over 50 years in this country. But there's often, people in their face, all sorts of protests, or they call themselves, they're not even protesters, they're harassers. The government won't accept that because they think they have a right to protest. I mean, just any woman should be able to go about their legal business without interference. And until we accept that principle, same old, I fear.
Jamie, is this much of an issue in Ealing?
I mean, Ealing actually has the most green spaces and parks, and our logo is a tree. But, I mean, I would have thought you should only get rid of a mature tree if it's dying, dead or diseased. And as far as I understand, I dug into this a little bit, this is a problem with the private insurance company, because the cost of underpinning, including moving out residents from those homes, would be 400,000. And given how austerity cuts have slashed local authority budgets, that's a serious amount of money. We've got a social care crisis, multiple different crises are still paying for COVID. So I think the legislation needs to be changed so the private insurers are responsible, not the local authority.